Hello students, in our last class already we have talked about the types of pollination. There are two types of pollination, self-pollination and cross-pollination. So as in the cross-pollination, there is a transfer of the pollen grains from one flower of one plant to the another flower of the another plant. So it requires pollinating agents. So today in our session we are going to discuss the agents of pollination. So here you can see one table, small table. Pollinating agents are classified into two types, abiotic agents and biotic agents. Abiotic means non-living, you can understand that. So two types of pollinating agents are there in the abiotic agents category. One is wind, another one is water. So wind pollination and water pollination. Wind pollination, scientifically it is known as anemophily, and water pollination, scientifically it is called hydrophily. So it is anemophily, it is hydrophily. Now for the biotic agents, means living agents, bird, insect, bat, so many are also there, sometimes elephants also. Okay, so in that, bird pollination mainly, scientifically it is known as ornithophily, and insect pollination it is known as entomophily. So in your syllabus mainly these four types of pollinations are there: anemophily, hydrophily, ornithophily and entomophily. Now one by one we will discuss that. First is wind pollination. It is also known as anemophily. So what is wind pollination? It occurs when the wind blows the pollen grains from one plant onto the pistil of the same type of plant. So it is a cross pollination that is mainly driven by the wind, means the pollen grains are transferred from one plant to the another plant by the help of wind or air current. The examples of the anemophilous flowers are corn, wheat, other grains. So here in the diagram or picture you can see that how the pollen grains, they are traveling through the wind. Next is the characteristics of the wind pollinated flowers. As this is the pollination driven by the non-living agents, so the flowers shouldn't be showy. It may not contain the nectars, scent, because these characteristics of the flowers are mainly required to attract the insects and birds. Because they are living creatures, they only will get attracted to the flowers by the scent, colors, nectars, like that. So these things are not required in the wind pollinated flowers. So first point, small inconspicuous flowers, means not visible too much, without any bright petals. The flowers are very small, they are without bright petals, because already I have told these bright colors, nectars, smells, these all are required to attract the insects and birds, all the living creatures. But wind is not a living, it is abiotic factor. So these characteristics are not required here. Petals are often absent for better exposure to the wind. No nectar is produced. No scent. Male flowers are often arranged in catkins, that means in clusters, cluster form, that move freely in the wind. Long thin filaments hang outside the flower, easily shaken by the wind. Actually, if the long filaments will be there, the anther, you know that inside the anther the pollen grains are situated. So if the long filaments will be there, anther will be exposed in the wind, in the air. So it will be easy to blow the pollen grains easily through the wind. Okay. So that's why long thin filaments hang outside the flower, easily shaken or taken by the wind. Anthers are large and well exposed to catch the wind. Pollen grains are small, non-sticky, light and easily carried by the wind, because you know anything that is heavy, that can't move so much long distance through the wind. So that's why the pollen grains are light and small. Stigmas are long and feather-like, with a large surface area and outside the flower to trap the pollen. You can see here that stigmas are feathery. For that, it can easily take up the wind-blown pollen grains or trap the pollen grains. Now here is a chart to show the features of the wind pollinated flowers and what are the reasons behind that. So for small petals, often brown or dull green, no need to attract insect. Already I have told this, no scent, no nectar. These characteristics are also for that it doesn't need to attract the insects. Pollen produced in greater quantities because most does not reach another flower because it is carried through the wind. So many pollen grains are wasted like that. Pollen very light and smooth, so it can be blown in the wind. Anthers loosely attached and dangle out to release pollen into the wind. Stigma hangs out the flower to catch the drifting pollen. Stigma feathery or net-like to catch the drifting pollen very fast. Now next is water pollination. It is also known as hydrophily. Hydrophily, it is a mode of pollination or transfer of pollen grains through the agency of water. Example, Zostera, Vallisneria, Hydrilla, so many plants are there in which hydrophily you can see. Now the characteristics. Water also, I have told you, this is abiotic agent. So here also the flowers need not to be showy, need not to have any odor or beautiful scent or nectar. These characteristics or features may not be present in the flowers, hydrophilous flowers. So the characteristics, flowers are small and inconspicuous. Nectar and odors are absent, may not be having sweet scent, nectar. Pollen grains are light and unwettable due to the presence of mucilage cover. Actually, the pollens are covered by the mucilage, one slippery substance which protect the pollen grains from the water destroyed by the water. So it is unwettable. Stigma is long, sticky, that is also unwettable. Here you can see the pollination process in the flower of Vallisneria. Vallisneria plant, you can see the pollination among the flowers, in between the male flower and the female flowers. So in the Vallisneria, you can see that male flowers, this is the male plant, this is the female plant. So male flowers, these are submerged in the water, while the female flowers, you can see they are having the long stalk, floats on the water surface. You can see the female flowers are having long stalk, they can float on the water. So what happens after the maturation, the male flowers, they are getting detached from the plant and flowers. Male flowers, they are getting detached from the plants and can float in the water, surface of the water. On the surface of the water, the male flowers can float, and when these flowers are coming in contact with the female flowers, the pollen grains, they can be dropped to the stigma of the female flowers, and thus pollination can take place. Okay, so this is the process of the pollination in any hydrophilous flower. Mainly here the example is Vallisneria. Next is insect pollination. Insect pollination, it is known as entomophilous or entomophily. So here what happens, the insects, through the insects only pollen grains are transferred from one flower to the another flower. Okay. So the pollen grains are transferred through the agency of insects. What are the insects which can help in the entomophily? Moths, butterflies, wasps, bees, beetles. These are the examples. And the examples of the flowers, entomophilous flowers, means the flowers in which entomophily is possible. Example is China rose, sunflower, marigold, this all. Now what are the characteristics of the entomophilous flowers or insect pollinated flowers? First and foremost thing, they should be showy, brightly colored, because these only attract the insects towards the flower. Most insect pollinated flowers have a landing platform for that the insect can sit. The pollen grains are spiny, heavy and surrounded by yellow oily sticky substance called pollen kit. Actually the pollen should be sticky in nature. For that it can easily can be stuck to the insect's body. Stigmas are often inserted and sticky. Some flowers provide safe place to insects for laying eggs. For laying eggs also insect can come to the flowers. In that time also they can transfer the pollen grains unknowingly. Scented floral parts, presence of nectars. These all are the very important characters or features should be present in the entomophilous flowers. Now here you can see the process of pollination. Okay, the pollination process of the entomophilous flowers. First point, the flower's petals are brightly colored and its fragrant scent attracts insect. Already I have told, as the insects are biotic agents, so it is attracted to the flowers by seeing the colors, bright colors of the flowers, by the sweet scent, by the nectars. For collecting the nectars also they can come to the flowers, and by that time they are helping in the pollination. The insects, in this case a honeybee, arrives on the flower to collect the nectar. This nectar is a sweet liquid which makes perfect food for the insects. As the insect gathers the nectar, it rubs against the flower's anthers, which pass pollen onto the body of the insects. After the insect has finished feeding, it grows hungry again and moves to a new flower. So from one flower to the another flower, next time when they are moving, that time the pollen grains can be transferred from one flower to the another flower. As the insect feeds on the nectar of the new flower, the pollen on its body rubs onto the stigma. So from the anther it is collecting the pollen, or the pollens are stuck to their body, and when this insects again is moving to another flower, that time the pollens on its body rubs onto the stigma of this flower. By that it can cause the pollination. It can help in the pollination. So here you can see one difference in between the wind pollinated flower and insect pollinated flowers. First point, produces enormous amount of pollen grains. Here produces small amount of pollen grains. Pollen grains are small, light and smooth. Pollen grains are larger, heavier, with the surface appendages like hooks, bulbs. Actually these appendages help the pollens to attach to the insect's body. Flowers are dull, nectarless, scentless, dull. Flowers are brightly colored, scented with nectar. Stigmas are long, feathery or adhesive, means sticky. Stigmas are often small. Stamen long and protrude above the petals, means protrude out of the petals. Stamens often within the corolla tube. Now last one is ornithophily, that is mainly done by the sunbird and hummingbird. Ornithophily is a bird pollination. That is transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the anther through the agency of birds. Here the two birds are mainly helpful, sunbird and hummingbirds. Now it is the mode of the pollination that is performed by the birds. Only a few types of birds are specialized for this. Already I have told, hummingbird and sunbird. They usually have small size, long beaks. You can see in the picture long beaks, because these flowers are funnel shaped, and through that funnel they have to enter their long beak to collect the nectars. By that time only they can enter also. They can enter also sometime inside the funnel like flower to collect the nectar. At that time the pollen grains are rubbed to their bodies and transferred like that. Okay. Now they usually have small size and long beaks. Small size for entering to the flowers, and long beaks to enter the beaks properly to collect the nectars. Now example of the plants in which the ornithophylla will be there, that is the bombex, begonia, etc. Now, what are the characteristics of the ornithophilous flowers? Mainly, it is resembling the characteristics of the entomophilous flowers. First, the pollinating birds generally have long beaks larger than the length of corolla tube. Example, already have to sunbird, hummingbird. Flowers are large size. That's why the birds can enter inside the flowers. Brightly colored to attract the birds. Odor is generally absent because birds can't get attracted by the odor by seeing the bright colored and by the presence of nectar, because to collect the nectars only they are coming to the birds. Floral parts are strong and leathery. Why the strong and leathery? Because it have to withstand the pressure of the birds when it is entering into the flower. So that's why floral parts are very, very strong. Flower secretes a lot of nectar. So today we have discussed about the agents of the pollination. 4 types of agent already we have talked about. Students, next class we will discuss another topic. So till then, bye and have a nice day.